Begin transmission. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Outer Rim Transmission. It is episode 41, and I am joined by the full crew. This week, the usual suspects. We got Ben back from vacation, and Milton is here as well to talk about tonight the Book of Boba Fett. Season 1. I'm going to keep seeing season 1 because I want a season 2. Episode 3, titled The Streets of Maz Espa. So we are happy that you guys are able to join us live and after the fact to enjoy our ramblings and our review and our discussion for this episode. As we do every week, we're going to start off with our week in Star Wars. I'm going to throw it to the guy that was out there in the Pacific Islands. How was Hawaii, man?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. My sister's wedding turned out really well. We got to tour around the entire island, because the whole island of Oahu is only 30 miles by 44 miles. So we toured it in only an hour and a half. So that was pretty cool. And, we traveled around, we swam in beautiful oceans, and the waters there were literally aqua blue. It was so beautiful. And then, of course, me being a big movie fan, I had to go to the iconic Koala Ranch, which is the ranch where all the Jurassic Park movies were pretty much filmed for the outside sequences. So we went there, and it was so cool. Literally, I just couldn't even handle it. I couldn't even take pictures with my own phone. I handed my phone to my sister and said, "Here, take pictures," because I literally just cannot even take pictures. It was so cool. So walking around the ranch, like I said, it literally felt like we stepped right into Jurassic Park. The whole, the sequences from the original movie where Sam Neill and the other main characters see the Brontosaurus walking across the valley. That's all there. We were in that because actually, so what that valley's used for, they actually have horses there, and there's horses everywhere actually, and it's really cool seeing all that. They have for tours, you have the Jurassic Park ATVs and the Jeeps you can take for the tours. And then, they have a, back end, we didn't get to the paid part because of the time constraints and it was just booked. But back end, they have the actual Indominus Rex pen where Chris Pratt gets trapped in the movie. Yeah, that's Sweet. Still there from the shoot. It's 50 foot, it's 50 by, yeah, that's back there still. We were talking to a lady about that. They have that as a tourist thing. You could walk inside of it and
cool.
see where they molded in the I-Rex's claw marks into the doors and stuff. And then one of the coolest parts I was messaging you guys about is when you're walking around the park. So you can't find them. We looked everywhere for speakers and stuff. It's impossible to find. But there's actually little speakers or sound systems or something all throughout the park. If you listen carefully, it's not overbearing or anything. You have to actually pay attention and listen, and you'll hear it. But you can hear faint raptor sounds just in the distance, and it's so cool because it just makes it feel that much more of an authentic experience. And it was literally such a blast. It was definitely something I want to go back to and do the full tour, because the full tour is actually 2 hours long. It's a long tour.
Wow.
Yeah, so $150 a person, but we definitely were talking about potentially going back next year or the year after, and booking it well in advance to go there and do the full thing.
That sounds awesome. Everything from those sets. I didn't realize that they filmed Jurassic World literally in the same area as Jurassic Park. That's cool. There's a lot of locations that look similar. They can get away with that. But that's neat to go back to where it all started. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, one more quick thing too. So one of the coolest things, as well, with the Raptors and just the scenery and everything. So that day it was a little bit foggy, and it really gave a Jurassic Park feel to it. When we saw the other tourists, because some of the tours that were booked, it was so cool, seeing the ATVs off in the mountain in the distance, in the foggy mountain, the Jeeps and stuff. It just really gave the Jurassic Park's, vibes and everything. It was just an amazing time.
Oh, man. So even from looking from the outside in, you still had a great time, a great experience, just kind of being in that ecosystem, that certain biome of where everything started,
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and they had the Jeeps and the ATVs out there, we were actually able to go and sit on them and stuff, and sit in the Jeeps and whatnot. That was really cool. And then the T-Rex pen, I'm sure you guys saw my Twitter profile change. I put my head in the T-Rex's mouth.
Right.
And that was really cool. And then one of the most actually fun parts that were not even just like the outside parts of going there was actually seeing they have like a wall of fame basically there, and it's
Okay.
all the iconic actors who've been there, and it shows pictures of them where like picture of them when they were in the park plus like just their headshot. So they showed like BD Wong, Bryce Dallas Howard, President Roosevelt was there, when he was in office, like all kinds of like iconic figures. I think Tom Hanks was on the wall. Like there's all kinds of different people that have been there that they have on. Like there's literally probably like 100 people on that wall, like famous iconic people, and it was just so cool, like just seeing the people who've like walked in the same area we were.
Yeah, that's something I haven't done, I don't believe, is go to a classic film location of something I enjoy, like a Star Wars location, like you said, a Jurassic Park location, Lord of the Rings. We'd have to go all the way to New Zealand for that, but that must feel pretty neat just looking around and be like, I am kind of in my own like imagination right now. I'm in placing
Oh
myself
yeah.
in the movie.
And another cool thing about it, so when you get there to like get back into the park, you have to go through this building. Of course, it's all tourists. It's a big like gift shop and like introduction and everything. And like also inside the shop, so inside the gift shop and everything, they have like the some of the sound bites from the Jurassic Park movie, like the DNA guy going, "Hello, this is a mosquito DNA,"
Ah.
blah blah. Like you hear that, you
Nice.
hear that in the background when you walk in and stuff, and that was so cool, like hearing that. And like the cool part is the way they have the building set up, so it's more like at a lower level, I guess you would say. So when you walk, when you walk out of the back of the building, you have to walk up steps to get into the park. So it's cool. So when you walk up the steps, it's like boom, it like opens up into the park.
Hmm.
So it's just cool how they have it set up to where it's more of like like when you walk out like the back of the building, like you literally see like the mountains and valley and everything. Like of course they have the building set up perfectly that way. So when you walk out, it's like a whoa moment.
Yeah, yeah. Jeez.
Oh,
Yeah, that's gotta be breathtaking, that's for sure.
oh yeah, I about screamed. I was I was like it just felt like I was in the movie. It was so cool.
Oh
Nice.
man. Man. So there you
Yeah, that
go.
was
That that
that was kind of my week. Not really week in Star Wars, more week in movie fandom for me.
There you go. Hey, you tied it in somehow, right? Like we can connect Steven Spielberg to Star Wars because he directed that one sequence in Revenge of the Sith when it's Grievous and Obi-Wan on
Hey,
Utapau.
hey!
So there
I
we
mean,
go.
there's that, and hey, I guess a little week in Star Wars, like I messaged you guys about. When I was on the plane right there to Hawaii, there was actually a guy who had a like one of the COVID mask on, and it was actually the T visor, like the Boba Fett mask, actually. So
Nice.
there you go.
All right, we're gonna throw it over to Milton. How was your week, man?
Oh no, my week was good, man. Just another week of, being an adult, trying to just survive the week and get to the weekend. This week for Star Wars with me wasn't really nothing special, except for I rediscovered the Star Wars Legacy History Channel documentary that I really love watching,
Huh.
and it just kind of popped up on my feed on YouTube. So I was like, oh, let me watch this, and I just got hooked, and I watched the first 30 minutes. So I'm probably will finish watching it tonight or sometime this weekend. But I had a Zoom meeting with one of my clients over the week, and he could see in the back of my office that I have some of my Star Wars figures and like my Boba
Nice.
Fett helmet, which is we're talking about that
Oh.
today. I have a Boba Fett helmet in the back of my office on a shelf, and he stops the meeting, literally a professional meeting. He stops it and says, "Hey Milton, should we call you Milton or should we call you the Mandalorian?" Literally in the middle of this meeting. I was like, what are you talking about? Because again, I know my helmet's there, but I just don't pay attention to it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, the Mandalorian helmet. Don't you have that? I was like, oh. It just caught me off. I thought it was kind of funny that even like people who are supposed to be professional and serious can have a good funny moment about Star Wars. And it made me laugh. So it was a good time.
You gotta love it, right? Like all
Yeah.
professional people have these Star Wars artifacts in their background. It's
Yeah.
just like perfectly normal, but it's
Yeah, I
cool
mean,
because of
and like
the
I said,
Zoom
to me, it's like
meetings.
I'm just having another meeting. Like I've had that sit there doing like court hearings when I have like stuff for Zooms. I just let it sit there. No one says anything because it doesn't look bad at all. It's the fact that it's funny that someone said something about it in a meeting. I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like, yeah, I'm a nerd, low key. So Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that puts a smile on your face, I'm sure. Just like,
Yeah.
yep, here we go, there we go. For me, I'm just kind of knee deep in High Republic Wave 3 Phase 1. I put up my review for Fallen Star. You can watch out on channel. Same thing with Mission to Disaster, and I was fortunate enough to receive through a digital copy the book that's coming out in February. It's called Midnight Horizon by Daniel Jose Older. That's the young adult book. And so far I'm really enjoying it. It's based on Corellia, and I don't know, something about Corellia. I've always loved that planet. So to have a whole book
Right.
that's kind of centered on there, and there was a book by Beth Revis, I believe, called Most Wanted, which was like Han Solo and Kira as teenagers on the planet. So it's cool
Hmm.
taking a look at Corellia 200 years in the past, and you got the Grindelids, which are like the species of Lady Proxima from Solo Star Wars story, and it's like you got all these like big politics that are happening, which is neat because I think Star Wars always does well with politics if you flesh out the world better that way. So, um, expect that review hopefully sometime next week. I'm almost like halfway through the book, so yeah, it'll be done in a few days. But yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm enjoying that, and that's about it for me with Star Wars this week. Other than building
Nice.
some more Star Wars miniatures. When I get those painted, I'll try to remember to show them off at one point. But yeah, so it was a
I've
pretty good
always
week.
wondered, wait, when you do those miniatures, where do you put them in your house?
Oh, okay. So a lot of them are just in storage, honestly. Like I have these
Okay.
like crates and stuff that I put them in.
Yeah.
Because I'm always swapping them out whenever I go to play the games at my local store. I have to like pack up certain ones to bring with me. So then I'll put the
Okay.
other ones away, then I'll put those ones in the carrying case and kind of stuff there. Like I mean I have like my one like Luke Skywalker that just always sits up here because I don't use this one. This one's more of like a nice one
Mhm.
I just have on display. So
All right.
that is
Now, 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 did you paint that one too?
yeah.
All right. Okay. Because I know you sent those. I mean, I know you've been doing it for a while, and you've shown them through like your YouTube, Instagrams, or even like our group chat.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, how much time does that actually take? Because
Oh,
it has to
okay.
be forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, just glue like for instance, I put together a Wookiee gunship, and oh my gosh, that thing took me like 2 hours just to glue together. And then it's like then you got to prime it with the
Goodness.
paint. Then the actual painting process, depending on how many
Mhm.
miniatures are in that unit or whatever, it could take easily 20 hours.
Oh,
Holy. Yeah, I'm definitely not that articulate to
yeah.
do all
I'm
that.
not that guy.
Yeah, because it's like you just kind of do a little bit after work every night. It could take me like a week
All
or
right.
2 weeks to like do it. You know what I mean? So, but it's
Okay.
a little hobby, and it's nice. I love doing it in the wintertime because there's not really much else going on. So it's like nice to come home, from work, cold night, and just settle down and just put on some music and just go painting or put a podcast on or on YouTube or something. It's really relaxing. I love it. But
Nice.
yeah. So more updates on that in the future. Before we get started with our conversation proper about the Book of Boba Fett review, if you are watching live, make sure you go ahead and send us some comments in the chat and do let us know after the fact in the comment section as well what you thought about this video and what your theories, what your speculation on future episodes of the Book of Boba Fett will be. We would love to hear your feedback and what you're thinking about. If you are watching, you can always listen to us on Spotify, which now has a rate feature. So go ahead and give us a rating. We prefer 5 out of 5 stars because it will help us kind of get more listeners so we can reach more of you guys out there on the internet. And make sure you go ahead and subscribe or whatever it is to make sure you keep seeing our new episodes that go live every Monday for you to download for the work week. So, getting started, we have the Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, Episode 3, titled The Streets of Maz Espa, in which Boba Fett is getting into some trouble, right? We have the current storyline where he is dealing with the twins. He is dealing with getting new allies because there's a burgeoning war that is going to happen. And as we see the end of the episode, the Hutts are pulling out because there's too much heat from apparently the Pike Syndicate. Yes, the ones from Solo Star Wars are back. And then we also have a flashback, or I wouldn't even call these flashbacks anymore because they're pretty much like story point B, because it's like we're doing so much of the stuff in the past that it's almost like
Hmm.
can't even call it a flashback anymore. But I digress. So he ends up meeting with the Pikes back about 5 years prior to settle the deal of protection. Turns out there's another protection group that happens to be the Nikto Speeder Gang, and when he goes back to return to the Tuskens, they have been wiped out. So that is where that point ends. We're going to throw it over to Milton. We're going to go spoiler free as we always do for the first couple of minutes here to give people an idea if it's worth watching the episode or whatever, our thoughts in general. So I'll throw it over to you, Milton. Spoiler free thoughts and impressions.
All right, let me just pull up my thoughts. So this is exactly what I said to you guys on Wednesday. I said, okay, solid episode. It wasn't special. It reminded me of the premiere episode, but was better than the premiere episode. I did have some issues with it. So, I mean, again, I got that premiere episode vibe. Again, the episode's too short for me. I don't understand why they have to make them 36 minutes, and that's including the credits and not the with the recap or whatever. It's like, what are we doing? It's not a horrible episode. There are things in it that I liked. There are things in it where I'm just like, okay. But I feel like this show right now is roller coastering for me. It's like episode 1, okay. Episode 2, amazing. Episode 3, it's kind of steady, but with a little bit of low points with it. It's like, what are we doing? There's only 7 episodes in the series, 7 or 6.
7.
There should not be one missed/wasted episode in a miniseries. I've always felt that way with any miniseries, whatever show I'm watching. Like in 22 episodes, you can get away with that. With 7, every episode should count, and I feel like they're being weird about it. But again, it wasn't bad, and we'll get into the spoilers later.
Ben, I'll throw it over to you as a returning person on the podcast.
Well,
I know you sent your thoughts last week. I know you enjoyed that episode just as much as we did. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, for starters, I'm definitely going to miss watching the Book of Boba Fett at 10 p.m. at night instead of 3 a.m. I will miss that a lot.
Nice.
But this episode, like I texted you guys, it was fine. It was fine. That's literally all it was. It was fine. It was okay. I had a few issues with it. A few issues. We'll get into those. I definitely am in a boat now where I don't think Robert Rodriguez is the guy directing style-wise for Star Wars. Like, this episode and the premiere episode, they're so similar. I think that's why they felt so similar, Milton, is his directing style. It just feels, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. It's not horrible, but it just feels off.
Yeah.
So, like, because there's a huge difference directing from episode 2 to episode 3. Like, it's not even it's not
significantly different.
It's not even the same ballpark. Mm-hmm. So I just I don't want to sound negative on him. Like he did great on the episode from Mando season 2, but I feel like that had to do with a lot of, we just had so much action. Now that there's not as much action, like his directing flaws are showing. So like I think that's an issue. But like overall the episode was fine. Like, there were certain parts I really liked in this episode, and then there were certain parts that I didn't. And I mean, I think just looking around the community, it seems like a lot of people feel that way. Like it was just fine. Let's see what's next, basically.
Yeah, I will agree with both of your sentiments, Milton and Ben. I was watching this episode and it's like kind of getting halfway through, and I'm just like, yeah, it's been fine. Like it's okay. I feel like our main character, Boba Fett, my main thing with this episode, there's a couple things. My main thing with the episode is it just feels like there's barely any progression for his character. And, I feel like he is kind of getting a short end of the stick as far as like his legacy is concerned at this point. We're 3 episodes in and he's making some mistakes that just make him look like, dude, you've been like the most badass bounty hunter in the last, 20 or so years. Like, how are you being oblivious to certain things going on, or how are you not understanding certain things when you've been in this world? Maybe not as a leader, but as a person that's a mercenary and a bounty hunter. Like, that's where I'm questioning it. We're like, okay, like sometimes I feel like, is this the same character sometimes? And I hate to say that, but George Lucas had created this character a certain way, then he started to flesh him out when he brought in Daniel Logan to play him at Attack of the Clones, and he was unmasked, and we got a different look at Boba Fett. And there's still a chance to redeem him at this point. Obviously, I'm not saying it's a lost cause. There's 4 episodes left. So that was the major thing for me. Some bright spots, definitely that jump scare with Black Chrysanthemum and that really awesome kind of
Yeah.
fight scene. I really like the fight scene. I think that it really portrayed Black Chrysanthemum as
Mm.
this like huge hulking behemoth and like he's a gladiator. And they've written, you know, as somebody that has read like all the issues with him in there, I think they really did him justice in that. Like he's an imposing force that could hold off like 6 or 7 people at the same time, shooting blasters, getting stabbed several times. Like he is a force to be reckoned with. And I love the fact that, you know, Boba Fett kind of acknowledged like his lifestyle, like, hey, no hard feelings. I know that you're paid to do a job. You weren't after me for like cold blood or anything. I'll let you just go. I really like that interaction. We'll dive deeper into that. So that's just kind of off the top. I thought it was weird having, you know, sometimes it bothers me with having like a character showing up that's played by a certain actor. I have to stop myself here because I don't want to spoil it too much.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you got that, and just overall, like there's a certain chase scene at the end. I feel like the action there could have been ramped up just a little bit more. So
Mm.
this one was like kind of all over the place. Like there was really good parts about it, parts that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and parts where I'm just like, okay, this is something that hopefully gets addressed more. But yeah, those are my
Right.
initial
Yeah.
thoughts there.
I Yeah, I think just to throw some more little general thoughts in there, I think the issue that's coming up with this show, and it is a growing concern of mine, honestly, is we went into the show with the thought that Boba Fett is going to be this crime lord, and my friend pointed it out to me. He's like that's what you have to expect because if you look at these crime lord movies like The Godfather, you don't have the main guy going out and doing the dirty work. But the problem is for Star Wars with such a badass character like Boba Fett, especially after the display they put on in Mando season 2, we can't have Boba Fett be the Godfather just sitting back and letting Fennec and letting this gang, letting all these people do his dirty work. Like we need to see Boba in action, and like you said, Chris, it's kind of not a. I wouldn't say at a level of hurting his legacy yet, because we're only a few episodes in, but it's getting to a point. It's concerning for me because it's like, are we making Boba where he's turning almost into a pacifist, like not
Mm.
wanting to be getting into action and just letting everybody do his dirty work? Like, sure, he's the Dio or whatever it's called. Like he's the main guy, but still, like Star Wars is not our daily Earth, like with mobs and stuff. Like Boba has Mandalorian armor on; he can get into action. So I just want to see a little more from that side of things.
Yeah, thoughts on that, Milton?
I mean, look, I think of one movie in particular that this first season could have been modeled after, and that is, you ever see The Godfather Part 2? Did you ever see
Mm-hmm.
that movie, Chris?
No, I have to watch those
Okay.
movies.
So all right. So in part two, spoiler alert, part two is a movie that's juxtaposed between Michael Corleone's present story in like the 1950s when he's taking over the Corleone family, and then it's his father, which is played by Robert De Niro, back in what, the 20s or 30s or
Yep.
whatever, when he's a young Vito Corleone, but he's his rise to power. They could have honestly taken the Godfather 2 components of just that Robert De Niro story and made it this. Like, just show how Boba Fett is going to build his family up, but be a badass at the same time and do some of the grunty work. And then season 2 could be whenever he's like the Don and he don't have to
Hmm.
go out all the time. Like, I feel like they're watering him down when it, because you're right, Ben. He's making some weird decisions. I'm like, I don't know if it's just the writing or maybe just the creators are just saying, hey, just wait. We're going to give you what you want in the next 4 episodes.
Hmm.
But it's like, what? Like, he's making weird decisions about like how to handle people or how to do certain things. It's like, all right, again, I have to trust these guys because I do know they know what they're doing. But right now, my confidence is being a little shaken. But I would have looked at this as more Godfather 2 to build the season 1 of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to look at something. I mean, that's the thing with Star Wars is they are grabbing so many inspirations. You know, I got my buddy Chad Ghost in the chat, and he's always going on about a lot of the Western influence it has, different kind of cinematography, and just kind of very similar plot lines, with him living with the Tuscans. That could be like the one movie Dancing Dance
Dances
with
with
Wolves
Wolves.
and all that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that there's a lot of things that are being put in there. They're trying to go with
I
their
mean,
own.
even even
Yeah.
with the Tuscan, not Tuscan, yeah, the Tuscan Raiders part, there are a lot of elements in that. I think the best part of the show we all like is the Tuscan Raider story
Hmm.
and what he's doing with them. So it's like if they would just mirror what they're doing with that particular
Yeah, yeah,
story
yeah.
with the present story,
Yeah.
it'd be like, all right, again, that's why I'm gonna say it again. Arrow season 1 and 2 are so good
Uh-huh.
because those flashbacks really pay off to the present story and vice versa. Both stories work well with each other pretty much. And it's
Well,
like,
yeah. I mean, Milton, with those flashbacks in Arrow, I mean, as well as I do, when in Arrow, when it would cut to some of those flashbacks, you would be thinking, how is this going to tie into the present timeline?
yep.
You know?
And then they
Yeah.
do like a little like cool scene, like flip of like he's walking into a door, which then goes into the flat or the past or present. Like it's just, I feel like I'm so used to seeing that such style of storytelling told well. I should be getting at in Star Wars, where I know their budget's bigger, I know their writing staff's probably significantly better. I would assume so, but you never know. I mean, again, we'll get into it more.
Yeah, we're gonna open this up to the spoiler part of the show. So those of you that have not watched yet, make sure you go ahead, pause this podcast or video, and come back later after the fact. We have Christopher Weber saying so much cool stuff in this episode, but there's some weird things they added that just kind of confused me.
Yep.
So yeah, we're gonna get into all those things, and what we always do is we kind of take a high level approach of the episode from chronological order of where we start in the episode to where we go. I'm going to give a shout out to Chad. He's one of the biggest fans of the Bomar monks, probably of anybody on the planet, quite frankly. So I knew he got a rise out of when he seen that thing as the first opening shot of the episode. And I do hope we get more expansion on, at least give us a line of, oh, the Bomar monks are doing okay in the basement or so. I don't know what they could do to tie them in, but I want to see some dialogue acknowledging these things' existence. That'd be pretty fun. And I know Chad would be over the moon at that point. But so we start with that, and then we go into the actual palace, and this droid is just giving us a rundown. I like how we get that rundown. There's always that map scene in Star Wars, right? There's always that, okay, this is that scene where we're all crowded around a hollow map of what's going on. It's like kind of like a little bit of exposition. So I do like how they gave us that exposition. They mentioned the sail barge, they mentioned the different families. So you have the Trandoshans, you have the Aqualish, and you have, was it the Nikto? Or there's somebody else that was in there when Bib Fortuna was wrong.
I can't remember. He was just listing off like all different parts that were.
Yeah.
I guess when Bib took over, what did he was in charge of? It was just a whole many people. I couldn't remember all the names.
But I think those will come into play later as we see in the trailers. There's a table and there's this big meeting. That's like the only thing that we haven't seen, I think, at this point from the trailers that I've seen is like there's that big table. We got to see that big meeting where they're all just chilling like it's a Game of Thrones scene around this big long table.
So as this episode was progressing, I was thinking, okay, we're going to now start seeing him put together his alliances.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like now my brother Chris is probably going to laugh because he told me this 2 days ago. Those bikers with the cybernetics, those people reminded him of like Power Rangers because like they're like different colors. And then because he sent me a meme today, and I'm
Chris,
thinking, I'm like, he's so right. I'm like thinking about it now. I was like, oh yeah, he's right. Because like there's red, yellow, blue, and green or something, and I'm like, yeah, they look like Power Rangers from the 1990s. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, Power Rangers are fire, but it was weird.
The funny thing is, I sent Chris that meme. My buddy sent me that meme. My cousin sent me that meme randomly. My other cousin in Seattle sent me that meme too randomly because that's the meme that's been floating around. It's the picture of Boba with the other ones in the background and the explosion. And it looks like a shot out of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
It's great.
But yeah, so I was thinking, okay, this is where he's going to start building his alliances. Because I honestly thought, and we'll get to the Chrysanta attack, I legit was thinking he's going to now sway him to join him. But clearly that didn't work the way we thought it would.
Yeah, so, and that's my issue with the show so far is like you were saying, Millen, there's no clear hook for the present day story. There was a bit of a hook for that prequel story going on, but the present day story is the weaker part in my opinion, and I think most people agree. It's just like, all right, like what are we doing here? What's Boba's motivations? We still don't know his motivations. Hopefully, the next 4 episodes, I'm sure we'll know. But as we are early in the season, it's still like, okay, like are we excited to watch this? Obviously, I'm excited to watch it every day or every week, but like the average viewer I know is not nearly as engaged as the Mandalorian because of probably that specific reason. So that's what we're getting laid out here. We're getting that map. We're finding out everything that's going on about these different families, as they call them, the different families of Maz Espa. So we're getting a better idea of this show now, right? Like we weren't sure like at what level this show is going to be. Is it going to be all of Tatooine they're focusing on? Is it going to be the Outer Rim? Is it going to be crime all over the entire galaxy, right? So we're getting a pretty good idea, I think, in episode 3 that this is relatively small scale right now. We're dealing with a singular city. Maybe by the end of the season, we'll get a bigger idea of maybe he's going to tackle this sector of the Outer Rim or something like that, right? So that is at least giving me a good idea of like, okay, this is where we are. So that scene was able to kind of set the table, be like, okay, this is what we can expect. He's going to try to gather these allies, as Milton's saying, and I think they have been doing pretty well with that so far. Like the first episode, you get Gamorrean guards. The second episode, he gets like he's part of the Tusken Raiders, but they aren't going to present day story. And then we get the this one where we're going to go into that gang, but. So then we move on and we get this watermonger, and that's where we get into the streets of Tatooine or the streets of Maz Espa, which is, I like the aesthetic, first of all, of them walking around, seeing him in the armor, Boba Fett at night with like just the reflections off the armor. I thought that looked really sick. I really like the design at that point, and I'll throw it over to either of you. What did you think of the exchange between Boba and those bikers right at the front there?
I mean, I liked it. I mean, it was nice to see. I forget what the gentleman's name is, the water guy, but he just talked about how he was just mad about them stealing from him and whatnot. So clearly, when Boba confronts that group, he's clearly not scared of them. And it's nice to see that he listened, and he acknowledged like, oh, there's no work. That's why you're stealing. You can't take care of yourselves. Come work for me then, And I love how he kind of like threw it back in that guy's face of like, hey, you're gonna take this money and be done with it. Like I handled your problem.
Yeah.
It was cool to see that he turned a problem into a solution. And I liked how they wrote that. That made so much sense. That's how a mobster would do it. Most mobsters who are intelligent and see long-term picture would say, all right, let me not just think in the present. How can I use this to my advantage to get what I want out of this? And he clearly flipped it to where, okay, I'll take care of your problem. You're not going to get exactly what you want. I'm going to make it benefit me. And he made it work to recruit that team and to, I guess, pay him off that little bit of money that he had. I thought that was great. I like that dialogue. I love the chick in that group. I do like her character. I feel like she's the leader of that group. That's the impression I got.
Yeah, I really like your spin on that, Milton, because I know a lot of people have been saying that's one of the weaker things is like, well, why would Boba Fett just hire these people that he hasn't even seen fight before, Like, what is making them so valuable to him where he could just go off the word of some guy that's pissed off about them, stealing water? Mm. So I like how you spun it because, yeah, he does see the bigger picture. He needs allies very, very much. And if he can gain their favor, hey, there's people here, they got cybernetics, so they got some cool tricks up their sleeves. So I like your mindset on that. Now it's actually kind of changing my opinion, which I was more on the negative of this whole thing. But I'll throw it to you. Throw it to you, Milton. I mean, throw it to you, Ben. Sorry.
Throw it back to Milton. I didn't have an issue with this scene with them. My issue with them was more along the lines that later in the episode. But yeah, this scene in particular, I thought it was done really well. Like you said, Milton, it puts a good spin on like the mobster mentality. Like Boba's gaining experience. Like I think that's a good thing. I just thought it was a good little example of him stepping more into that role, I guess you would say. And then also along with that, he needs to recruit people. Like we said it from the first episode, it can't just be him and Fennec, or it can't be just him, Fennec, and the Gamorreans. Like he has to have people. Like I'm sure in Boba's mind, yeah, these people are fine and all, but they're pretty much just bodies working for him. Like, you know, if he loses any of them, he probably is not going to care too much. I would assume. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see the way they play out, the way their characters go. But yeah, I don't know. I thought the scene was done pretty well. It's good that Boba was reasonable with like the water guy. Like, you know, he's still not. He didn't just like off him or something. Like that's, you know, like I think we will get to that point at some point this season where Boba will take somebody out just to like prove a point. Because I said it from the first episode. I really, how long is Boba going to stick with this until he just says, screw it? This isn't working. Let's just go back to the old fashioned ways of doing things. Because I just I don't see him staying this calm for 7 episodes. I really don't. So, you know, this was a good step in the direction, but we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, Chad is saying, I think this is a slow build-up show, hopefully with numerous seasons, and I think the pacing and element of mystery, uncertainty matches up with Boba's character. Yeah, that is cool if they can thematically like match the tone of the show to the actual character's mystique. Like that, I know you've been saying that he's been saying that from the start. So he's holding to that. He's holding to it, and I appreciate him for doing that because that is a really cool take on it. Ben, I will kind of piggyback off of one of the things you just said about, Boba Fett will just throw away some of these allies he makes. Like, if they go down, no big deal. I'm actually going to counter that, and I'm going to kind of skip ahead for 1 minute here into later in the show when there's that whole thing with Black Chrysanthemum. And I love the fact that, Boba Fett was like, oh, get my Gamorrean, get him to the back to pod. Like, get him, like, that's his personal back to pod. Like, he cares that much about a freaking pig guy that he takes the time and to be, like, throw him in there. Like, we need him. Like, throw him, like, he shows compassion. Like, holy crap. Like, we're getting so much. I said before, we're not getting a lot of character development. I don't know if this is a lot of character development, but that little sentiment of him, like, actually acknowledging his buddy is wounded and throwing him in the back to pod that he uses personally was like, that's a big step for him, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a big step for him. But my thing is, I think there's a difference between the Gamorreans and that gang because I think there's a chance they'll just turn on him at some point, is what I think, like, long term.
Well, I think the only reason why they would turn on him if it wasn't profitable for them and if it seemed like he was too weak, they can't be seen with a weak leader anymore. He's making too many mistakes. Then they would try to get him.
That's my sentiment I'm feeling, though, is Boba is not showing he's strong enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like that's what is going to cause this gang and cause other people to turn on him and say, you're not a strong leader. Like, I mean, I kind of, based on some things later on in the episode we'll get into, I think we'll eventually see that or see examples of that. But right now, he's not showing he's a strong leader. Like, if I'm a citizen of Tatooine, I'm like, so what? A bounty hunter's running our city. Big whoop. Like, big whoop. Like, what? But who cares? Like, he's not really doing anything.
Yeah. So going into the flashback, right? This is interesting. They've shown us the same flashback, 2 or 3 times now? At least 2 times.
Yep.
Right.
With Boba Fett at the window with the slave one. I think this was a slightly extended version of the thing we seen last week. So, like, man, oh man, I just want to see the full scene play out. What is actually the context of that scene? Where is Jango Fett going? What's Boba Fett longing for? Is this just the kind of show like he's always longing for his father, even in his current age, things like that? Are we gonna actually see a scene between a Jango Fett de-aged Tamara Morrison and talking to like a Daniel Logan DA? I don't even know what's happening there, but something's very specific happening with Kamino, and the fact that he has to constantly go in that back to pod when he's not even clearly wounded. It's not, oh, I got hurt in battle, I have to go. No, I'm just waking up in that back to pod every single day, and my vision is green every time I'm going either into consciousness or out of consciousness. My vision's turning green. Man, there's something with the cloning. I'm telling you, that's what's happening. There's some kind of freaking problem with that cloning technology. He's not meant to be this old, or there was a malfunction where you get to a certain age and maybe he was the unaltered clone. This is going to be the byproduct of being an unaltered clone, not aging as fast.
I agree. I mean, I've referenced this before. The materials out there in the books. I mean, Kathleen, listen to your boy. So, I mean, look, I like. I'm gonna just jump back to the whole sentiment thing. Do I feel that's good character development? I don't know. I just think it's just something that just made sense for the story. Um, I am curious about the whole Camino thing. I think that has to be important. I think I said that in episode 1. Like, you don't show Camino for nothing. Like, that has to tie into something. And that whole green flashy thing, that has to be an issue. There's something's wrong with him. Like, I think at this point, that's inevitable. And hopefully the storytellers can explain what the hell is going on. Because why would you need to sleep in a back to tank every night? You know, like, that don't make any sense.
And I think and this is my one critique, right? Obviously, I'm just a dude on YouTube, so take this with a grain of salt. Armchair directing, whatever you want to call it, but at least give us a little bit more to chew off. Like, we keep saying, oh, is Boba Fett weak in this? Is he just not standing up the way we think he would in the comics or in the old EU and stuff like that? And I think what would help that is to sprinkle in maybe more details about hints at like his demise or something, like more hints. And then we could be like, oh, okay, we're understanding like, wow, he's not in the front line of battle because maybe there is something more going on with it rather than, okay, yeah, maybe the back of the pod is clearly enough for us to be like, okay, there's something wrong with him. Maybe, I guess, but maybe I still would like to have a little bit more hints at like what is going on there. I think at episode 3.
Go ahead, Ben.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna I think that is gonna be a significant part of the story at some point. Like, this is kind of the Camino thing is kind of like the C plot right now behind the Tuskens and the current day stuff. But the Camino stuff I think is kind of like the C plot, but it's building slowly. It's going to be building slowly throughout in the background. But as you said, Chris, like I think they should be hinting at it more, because if we get to the end of the season and there's no explanation for it, it'll be like, oh, okay, so that's just flashbacks to Camino, I guess, and I guess he sleeps in a Bacta tank because that's what he likes. So I think it is going to be heading in that direction, like you referenced, Milton, like the old books, where maybe by the end of the story, maybe by episode 6, well, maybe by middle of the way through episode 7, like when we're getting toward the end of the very end of the season, we're going to get some reference. Maybe, like we said before, Boba like tells Fennec like he's dying or something, and they have to find someone connected to the Kaminoans or whatever. And I think that's what's going to tie us into the greater Mandoverse, because that's going to tie in. I think we're going to eventually connect Boba with Dr. Pershing, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that could be a really good connection.
Yeah, and so I'm just to piggyback off that. This is one of my gripes about episode 1 and 3, because they're too short. Like, we're wasting episodes. I feel like we're wasting because we don't have enough time, and they're only 30 plus minutes. There's 20 minutes that we could have added in both those episodes, and that's 40 minutes total of storytelling that could have fleshed out some of these issues that I'm having. I know for sure. Again, like I don't like, people will say, well, maybe off camera. I don't watch this show for off camera. I need to see what I'm seeing. Like, this is a limited series for a reason. So please, if you're trying to make this a tight story, don't waste minutes. Don't cut out stuff. Like, I feel like the more we get, the better. Again, if we had 3 50-minute episodes, I think a lot of our issues would be alleviated. I guarantee you that. Because I think a lot of this stuff would be fleshed out, at least being told in a way where we know it's going to pay off later down the road.
Yeah, so we got to look at each episode and be like, what did we accomplish in this episode, right? Episode 1 sets the foundation for the Book of Boba Fett. We see Boba Fett being put through the ringer in the past. That's going to dictate how he acts in the future, and in current times, he is trying to struggle as a leader. Okay, that second episode is all about the past and him like learning to fight with the Tuskens and all that, and also having the adversaries of the Hutt show up. This episode, it's like, okay, we see some good stuff with the past where we're going to get into right now, where it's like, okay, the Tuskens are gone. Like, what's going to happen with him now? That's going to set him maybe on a road to revenge, maybe, right? And then the current time is kind of still the same thing we've seen. It's just like, okay, some adversaries, but it didn't really push the present day plot. It gave him some cool little things to play around with, but it didn't it didn't set the bar as high as I would like it. And let's just jump right into that past part there with how that is going to imprint on him in the future. Seeing those Tuscans slaughtered, um, that's going to be huge for him, right? Seeing how
Right.
these people spent the time, he spent all this time with these people, and now he's going to have to get revenge on these Nikto Speeder gang people. So that was a
Yeah.
really
I
good
mean,
scene. Yeah.
yeah, that I like that. Again, thus far, the best part of this show has been the Tusken Raiders, and I know in this episode a lot of that was shorter because we got a lot more present story in this episode. Even with that couple minutes, we know where it's headed. We know that Boba tried to dictate something. What was it? He went to the Pikes
Mm-hmm.
to go over their deal. They shot him down and said, "Hey, go take care of that group for us." Blah 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 blah. I'm going back to my people. Wiped out. So we know the next episode something's going to happen. It tied in perfectly. I'm curious to see how they're going to move that story along. I'm curious to see who's he going to bring in the fold to help him exact his revenge. Because again, I'm still assuming he wants to have that relationship with the Pikes, or will he just forget that? I don't know. But no, I thought that was really really well told.
Oh yeah, I think it was done really well. That was one of the moments just so far in this entire series that it really made me go whoa, like in like a shocked way. Like when he was
Mm-hmm.
walking up, you knew they were wiped out soon as it started. You knew they were wiped out. Um, so like that was one of the most like surprising moments because they've humanized the Tusken Raiders so far in like the Mandoverse, and I it was that was one of the most surprising moments for sure. So like I just think, as you said, Milton, maybe the next episode he's going to exact like his revenge potentially, and maybe during this time period, hey, this could be the come up for Cobb Vanth since he's like a law person or whatever. It's like maybe he helps Boba potentially in the past, like something like that, and maybe that's why Boba, I don't know, lets him keep his armor temporarily or something. Um, like maybe you have something like that, but I hope if he does exact his like revenge in the past, hopefully, like we said before with Arrow, hopefully it mirrors into the present, like something going on in the present, like Boba getting more into the action in the present versus just like letting his underlings do his bidding, basically. So I hope it's gonna start mirroring the story a little more like that. But I'm not really sure if it will, as we've seen up to this point.
Yeah, so the way it's going to mirror directly is with the adversaries, and I see it already. Like the
Yep.
Pikes are now involved in the current storyline. We'll talk more about them in a little bit, but just I like how already we're seeing. Okay, the past has the Pikes, now the current time has the Pikes. Boba's got a history with these guys already, so he knows what's up. He knows, okay, yeah, it's time for war, and that's how the episode ends. But real quick before we move on to one of the cooler scenes of the episode, there was a couple cool Easter eggs. I think you guys probably seen them. About the lady from the docking bay from the Mandalorian. I was just walking across the street with the little
Yep.
pit
Oh
droids.
yeah,
You see them putting on the stormtrooper helmets on the Pikes, which is really neat, right? Because Boba Fett probably has no idea that the Empire has been defeated at this point. He's been out living in the desert ever since the Sarlacc pit. He's had no like actual communication with anybody, that's got any civilization really. So he's probably seeing those and like, okay, what's going on there? You know what I mean? So that was a cool tie-in to the Mandalorian. That's like the biggest tie-in we've had so far, except for the character of Boba Fett himself, obviously. So I thought that was pretty neat.
right. Yeah, no, I thought it was really good Easter egg because I when I saw that, I'm thinking that person looks familiar. Like it looked perfect. It was a great tie-in. Again, I think Star Wars does a good job at Easter eggs. I'll give them credit on that.
Oh,
Hmm.
for sure. I totally agree. I think the actress is named Amy Sedaris, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And that was a cool little Easter egg. Nice knowing we are in the same universe or same like group of people. So it is cool like seeing that. Yeah, I mean we have some other Easter eggs that talk about later in the episode as well.
Yeah, so now we get the cool jump scare kind of thing where I wasn't expecting like the water to just kind of like overflow as the thing opened, and you just see these hairy arms go and grab them, That was awesome, and I wasn't expecting to see that kind of action from Black Chrysanthemum so early on in the series. I was like, "Oh, we're gonna have to wait till like episode, like 6 or 7 to see him actually fully in action." So that was a lot of fun. We mentioned it earlier. It was just like the way the cyborgs are using these like I don't even know what you would call those electro like little whippy things, but that was pretty interesting. But it's like, okay, how did he even get in there? You know what I mean? He's got to be one quiet Wookiee, I guess.
Yeah, that was one of the. I really liked that scene a lot. It did make me jump actually. Like watching it at 3 in the morning, it made me jump. That's for sure. But my thing is with it, I thought like you guys like you said, how do you get in there to begin with? Like did I don't know did like airport security say yeah we can let you on through? You look pretty rough. We'll let you on through back to Boba Fett back there. Like I don't know. It was I thought it was kind of weird how he got in there, and there was really no explanation as to how he got in there. Or at least I didn't see any explanation. So like I don't know, I just thought it was a little weird, but the scene I really liked overall.
I feel like the choreography and everything was pretty cool. I like the aesthetic,
Yep.
like the ambiance of like it all being in darkness, and you get this big Wookiee just hulking out, just taking people out. And
Right.
poor Boba Fett, man, he got his butt kicked in that scene.
I honestly, at one point, I thought they broke his back.
See, my friend pointed that out, Milton,
I
when
thought
we were
I thought he
watching
broke his
it.
back.
He said, "Did he break Boba's back?"
Yeah, because you could hear like the sound effects is clearly there. I'm thinking, oh, he broke his back. He can't walk. And then clearly he gets up. He's starting to attack him more. And then I'm thinking, all right, if people don't show up to start helping him, we got a problem again. But then people did show up to help him, which is great. You can definitely tell that Wookiee wasn't going to go down easy. I'm glad they didn't kill him. It was cool that they trapped him in the pit. Again, at the end of that fight, I was thinking once they figure out the whole trade aspect that they were going to like convince that Wookiee to join his crew, but it didn't work out. However, like I said, I love the choreography. I love the action. I thought the Wookiee's character was perfectly, I guess, presented in that fight. Like he wasn't going to go down without a fight. And he wasn't easily defeated.
Yeah,
I
he
love the
perfectly.
look.
Yeah,
I love the look. I love the look of Black Chrysanthemum. I think he looks so cool. And like you said, Milton, I was kind of wishing he was gonna join Boba's crew. Like, I don't know. I was kind of thinking. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how Wookiee life debts work or anything. I was like, oh man, maybe even though he's like a bounty hunter and stuff, maybe he has like a hint of honor, and maybe he'll be like, hey, I'll work with you now since you like spared me or something. But
Right.
he's definitely gonna come back. I mean, I don't know for a fact,
That's
but
See,
he's
that's what I'm
coming
saying.
back
He
at
should come
some
back.
point.
There's no way you bring this character in that's very popular and just let him be in that 2 episodes and leave. That just doesn't make any sense because he's a character that we've never seen in live action. It'd be nice to keep him around.
Yeah. So here we have this big scene eating all this food at this table. That was something out of like a medieval fantasy movie. They're just like, hey, we got all this food magically here. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm like, who's cooking for this guy?
Yeah.
Like that's okay. This is where I'm now going to get really weird and picky about it. Who the hell's cooking for him? Where is he getting all this food? Does he have a shit ton of money sitting around to just pay for everything? Like, how's he funding this whole like family of his?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because you have Jabba's palace. It's a pretty large place, right?
Yeah.
From what we know, and it's like, so you're telling me all they have is Fennec Shan, 2 Gamorrean guards. You got a droid, you got an astromech droid with a holo map. You got like maybe 5 or 6 of those gang members, and that's it. That's everybody in the entire palace.
Who's paying the electric bill? You know what I'm saying? Who's paying utility bills, electric bill? You know what I'm saying? All that, because I feel like you need multiple people to run a castle. Like you need maintenance, obviously.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah,
it's
that is true. I didn't really think of it that way, but now that you say that, like that, now I'm gonna be looking at those scenes weird in the coming episodes. Like we only have like 6 or 7 people here in this huge castle.
Yeah.
And presumably Boba's bank account was closed when he was in the Sarlacc pit, probably. So like that is true. Like how is this getting funded? Like that is actually a very valid real world question.
Yeah. Just saying.
No, but just a little bit nitpicky. That's all.
Yeah.
It's fun to
Look,
think about.
because my thing is though, like even looking back at Return of the Jedi, and when Jabba or when Luke shows up, in the palace, there's a lot of people in that place. A
Yeah.
lot of
Facts.
people living there. So it's like someone has to be doing something because Jabba wasn't cleaning nothing. He wasn't cooking for himself. Probably wasn't wiping his own ass.
Yeah.
So like let's be real here. Like,
Oh, yeah,
there's
yeah.
gotta be people-
Maybe that's why Black Crescent was able to sneak in because he said, "Hey, no one's guarding about 10 of these gates in this palace, so let's walk right in."
Facts.
I mean, I go back to the beginning. This is part of the conversation with the watermonger guy. He was like, nobody respects you. And Boba Fett, like, seemed taken back by that. He was like, really? Like, nobody respects me? It's like, dude, no one respects you. You tried to get killed in the middle of the street. Like,
Yeah.
how
Like,
is this
you
news
have
to
no
you?
posse, bro. Yeah, like you have no posse. Like you may look like you're. I mean, we know he individually is tough. We know that, but perception matters. If you don't got people to back you up, if you don't have a show of force, then it's not worth people's time. When you see the Hutts, the twin Hutts, they got 8 people pushing them. Plus, they got the Black Chrysanthemum and whatever snipers that are around. Like they show a force. So they're not going to be trifled with. And on top of that, they captured a Rancor. Come on, man. They got people to run stuff for them.
So
Well,
let's
that's
talk
the
about
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Just a real quick, like Boba could run like that if he would show his toughness and not get beat up. Like that's the difference. Like the Hutts and all that, they can come in and have their posse. Boba could do like the solo or the smaller posse if he was more aggressive, but he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Chad is saying in the chat, look, Boba has relied so much on being alone, right? He's been a bounty hunter, a
Yep.
singular person that's worked on their own, sufficient on their own. But when push comes to shove, when you own a family, when you run a family, people are out to get you all the time. You're going to need more than just
Facts.
yourself as backup. So he's going to have to. I think he's quickly learning this, which is why he's recruiting all these different people, especially the gang right now. But let's talk about the Rancor, So that was one of the best moments of this between Black Crescent and between seeing the Rancor. Those were the redeeming qualities that really like made me like this episode more than I would if they weren't in there, obviously, because that is just legacy content right there. We're getting that Return of the Jedi vibe. Like they had a full-blown puppet on set, right? That had to be practical. That sleeping Rancor there, it was so cool. And we're seeing that the Hutts are kind of playing a power play. They're like, okay, we're gonna back out. We're gonna pitch you against the Pikes because we don't want to get involved. We don't want war. War is bad for business. But we'll give you this little token of our gratitude as like a power piece. And I've put a video out on my YouTube channel about like, why is the Rancor important? It's because it's a power piece for Boba Fett. He's been seen weak as this whole time, but if he can actually ride a Rancor, that's going to give him some street cred. People are going to kind of start looking at him with some more respect if he can actually tame this creature and just look like a badass doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is precedent for someone to ride a Rancor. I know in the they mention it from the they talk about the Night Sisters.
Yep.
From Dathomir, they
Dathomir.
mention that. But also too, if you guys remember in the Force Unleashed game, you go to Felucia, and I believe Shock T and her apprentice have like a multitude of Rancors on Felucia that they ride and that they use as allies. So to me, and I know that's Legends via video game, but there is precedent for that. So I'm very curious how they're going to bring that into live action, which again, I'm glad they're doing that because they know there's precedent in the Star Wars universe, in the Star Wars Legends material. So I love the bringing that into the live action canon.
Yeah, even one of the best things in canon so far is in the High Republic, there's the Hutts that actually have Rancors and they have Gamorreans on the Rancors. And at one point, the Jedi actually allied with the Hutts for a battle against the Drengir, which are these plant-living creatures. And they actually had Jedi on the freaking Rancors, riding them around, just like deflecting laser bolts back at the different or whatever. That was badass. So like I got to see that in live action, especially with him on all his armor. And just the little thing he made, the little side of Boba Fett was like, "Oh, I've ridden creatures 10 times this size," and it took me a minute.
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" I'm thinking like all the canon references of
I
him.
knew
Like
knew it right
I'm sitting
away.
there like, "Huh? Oh, they're talking about the Legends thing."
Yep, they're talking about the holiday special. Like that was one of the best parts. Of course, seeing the Rancor and everything was awesome. Like, you know, just seeing that character. I mean, I guess it's more of iconic character right up there, along with many of the others in Star Wars. Like seeing that back. We knew we were going to get one eventually based on just the first episode when they're saying, where's the Rancor and all that. Like we knew we were going to get one eventually, so it will be really cool. I think him riding the Rancor could potentially be like almost an end of show shot, like walking down the streets of Mos Espa with that, like basically, that could be after he like conquers these gangs and everything, and like then they finally are showing him respect, as he's walking or riding the Rancor, but yeah, like I loved it. And then the reference, the holiday special reference, like, hey, keep giving those references, like him saying he's ridden something 10 times bigger, like, and he has, like in the holiday special he was riding that big creature on Tatooine when he meets Luke. And I thought that was one of the coolest little Easter eggs. Like I love that they keep referencing the holiday special. That's great that they're aware. They're aware that they have source material. I guess they do have some source material. So like
Hey,
that's
Kathleen.
yeah. Shout out Kathleen. So I just thought it's really cool, and it's good, and I hope they continue to be self-aware with those type of references versus just giving Boba some other generic line, or any of these characters really in any of these shows. Like, don't give them just generic lines. Give them lines that mean something. And the best part about this, like we mentioned with the Mandalorian season 1 and 2, that example, it's an example. Anybody can understand that, whether it means something for the general audience, because the general audience members like, oh wow, Boba's ridden something bigger than that. And then people like us who know what the reference means, it means something to us as well. So it keeps everybody included in the show. And I really like that aspect of these Mandoverse shows.
Oh yeah, Jon Favreau is all over that. We know he just loves that. I mean, the very first episode of Mandalorian had that classic
Yep.
weapon plus him mentioning Life Day. So
Yep.
he's all over that, and we know his fingerprints are all over the show. He writes like every single. I think he's writing every single episode except for the one that Dave Filoni's doing.
Yep.
So moving on after the rat. Well, not even moving on. So here's a topic of discussion. And so what was your first thought on seeing Danny Trejo? Were you like immediately taken out of the show, like, hey, that's that guy from all those horror movies and whatnot?
Nope.
Or were you like,
Not
or were you
surprised.
cool for it?
Not surprised, because him and Robert are tight. Everything Robert Rodriguez does,
Okay.
he's in it. Literally. Like, I mean, I've never seen, because him, so Danny Trejo, Quentin Tarantino, and Robert Rodriguez like work together a lot on some of their projects. And anytime Robert does something, Trejo's either as a lead character, supporting, or a cameo. Like, I'm not shocked to see that. I wasn't taken out of it. I liked it. Because again, like, anyone can play in Star Wars. Like, I never understood people being weird about like, oh, that took me out of it. Like, he's an actor and his character is a badass Rancor trainer. Like, that's perfect for Danny Trejo in Star Wars. Because he said, I need to start his training. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I got to do it. He's going to make him badass. I loved it. Like, to me, it fit. Like, it wasn't over the top. It's not like it's Daniel Day-Lewis playing the Rancor trainer. Then I'd be like, wait a minute. He ain't going to do Star Wars. Come on. Like,
Tom
it's
Hanks.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah, if Tom Hanks showed up, I'd be like, nah, this don't seem right. He don't seem like a Star Wars type of guy.
Okay.
Unless they cloaked him in like makeup or something.
Yep. See, I'm definitely on Milton's side of things with this. Like, I actually really enjoyed that cameo, because I think they did it in a way, and it's no surprise either. Like, I remember I talked to one of my cousins about that months ago. I was like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Trejo was in this for something. So, him being in this as the Rancor keeper or trainer, I thought that was really, really cool. And it's cool that he's not like a lead, right with Boba. So I think it's going to be cool seeing him in this role because he'll probably only be in it one more time. Maybe two more times. Like he probably won't be in it much. But I thought the way his lines, like he wasn't overacting. Like he played the character really well. Like it didn't take me out of it at all. Like him acting. And as you said, Milton, it would be different if it was like Tom Hanks or Daniel Day-Lewis or here's a bigger example. What if The Rock was the Rank Wars trainer?
Yeah, then I'd be like, nah.
Then I'd be like, whoa, hold up here. Yeah, like something like that. But Trejo, I mean, he kind of has the look of a Rank War trainer, I guess you would say.
He looks like he lives on Tatooine. Let's be real here.
Yeah, he looks like it. So I didn't have any issue with it. I thought it was a good cameo, and I thought they did well with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have Star Wars Infinite in the chat. He's saying, not a fan of the Trejo appearance, not a fan of cameos with super recognizable faces in Star Wars. That's why I enjoyed the prequel so much. Most people were unknown and cameos were super subtle. I kind of agree more with Star Wars Infinite on this one, which is why I brought it up, obviously. I just feel like, as somebody that has grown up with the prequels and all that sort of thing, I have the same sentiments. Like, okay, it's like I see that other character, and it kind of takes the mystique out of it. It's kind of dumb, I know, but it's like one of those things I have to get over with because like Star Wars used to be just like movies, right? Just movies that we get maybe once every 3 years, so they could have the time to get this unknown talent and everything. I mean, sooner or later, when they're pumping out these 5 series in 1 year, there's gonna have to be some recognizable talent eventually. Realistically, they can't just find all this unknown talent and make sure they're good enough to be in these roles. They go with the people that they know do a good job. And I wasn't put off by him at all. I'm just saying his face was like recognizable. I think he's gonna do great as a keeper. It was just like, oh, I know that guy. Okay.
Well, I mean, look at.
I will say this. I do agree with you, Chris, and was it Star Wars Infinite? If it was this person. If Meryl Streep showed up in Star Wars, Meryl Streep, I'm like, no, she can't be in Star Wars. Like, she's too well known, and I don't say Star Wars is beneath her, but it's Meryl Streep. You know what I'm saying? Like, she don't need to be in Star Wars. That's when I'd be like, all right, come on, man. Like, we don't need that.
Yep. Oh yeah, I totally agree. I think it really comes down to, a lot of it really comes down to what character the actor's playing when it comes to these cameos as well. Because like Trejo playing this character was totally fine, but if he was playing like I don't know, any other like a gang member or something, I don't know, it would have probably been weird. I mean, look, talking about recognizable actors, like arguably one of the biggest actors in all of Star Wars' franchise right now is Rosario Dawson. Like she's bigger than any actor right now in the Star Wars franchise, and she's leading Ahsoka. So
here's the thing, though. Like they completely changed her face, though. She's unrecognizable.
They covered her.
Well,
and she's. Go ahead.
Well, they covered her, but even at that, like, even to like rebuttal on like recognizable actors, our own Harrison Ford. Like when you see him in The Force Awakens, at this point, it's like, is that Han Solo or Indiana Jones?
No.
Like who is that?
But you know what? I hear what you're saying, and like, listen, if he walked on The Force Awakens and was like that old, like gritty, like Harrison Ford, where he's like, I just want to get a paycheck and get out of here and be done with it, I'd be like, all right, no. But he actually seemed like he was Han Solo, because the first time we see him, he runs onto that ship and he's like, Chewie, we're home. And I'm like, oh, that's Han Solo. Yeah. That I feel like that's just a 60-year-old Han Solo who's excited to get his shit back. I didn't see Harrison Ford. Now, again, we know what he's like outside of the movies. If we'd have got that character of Han Solo, I'm like, wait, what? That's Harrison Ford. He's just grumpy, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? He don't want to do Star Wars no more. You could tell the difference.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the roles, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm envisioning great things from Danny Trejo. I think he's going to be pretty irregular. I feel like Boba Fett, like every episode, is going to kind of like report like as a check-in with the Rancor, and you'll see Boba Fett like walking down into the pit, and you'll see the Rancor trainer like dodging the arms of the Rancor with his staff as he's yelling orders at the Rancor, and I can see him doing like these crazy stunts and like going like, oh, hey, Boba, we're just working on training, whatever. And I can see like some really cool sequences. And then eventually, like when the Rancor gets out into the field and starts literally killing people, like his adversaries, I can see the Rancor trainer like out there with his staff, like alongside of the Rancor, just like slashing people's necks and everything. Like
See,
I could
I
actually
think
foresee that happening.
I think he's going to turn into actually the guy from Mando, the side character who was training those other like those horse alien things Mando was writing.
Fuel?
Nick Nolte.
Yeah, Nick Nolte. I think he's going to turn into that type of character where he'll maybe connect with Boba and eventually get killed, and maybe that's when Boba brings the Rancor into action. Like that'll be
Right.
the time, you know. I
But
think
the
we'll go in
one
that direction.
the one thing remains, where the heck is Malakili at this point? Like I would have thought for sure you would have gotten that guy back. I mean, in
Yeah.
the Aftermath books, I know he was tied up with Cobb Vanth because Malakili was brought back or something because then he was training one of the Hutts. He was training like was it Jabba's son or something? No, there was another Hutt that was involved or something like that. And Malakili was out on this village like training somebody. I forget. I'm
Oh,
gonna have to reread those stories, but
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So before we move on, so I just want to go back to the whole like bringing in known actors thing. So let's just go back to this. Let's not forget Sam Jackson was in the prequels, and Sam Jackson's a known actor throughout the world.
Here's the thing, though. I didn't know about him at all before seeing that movie.
Oh, see, okay,
Well,
because like, okay, and I mean, I know you're a little bit younger than me, but like, I mean,
Liam
because I
Neeson.
was but say Liam Neeson did Schindler's List, and he did Rob Roy and all the other movies, and then Sam Jackson was doing everything back in the 80s and 90s. Hell, he was in Goodfellas at one point. So like, I was 11 when Phantom Menace came out, so I was seeing like a lot of his movies as a child. I probably shouldn't have been, but like Sam Jackson's but he's a great character actor too. Same with Liam Neeson, so I think that makes sense why they worked for Star Wars. And I mean, yeah, Meryl Streep and Daniel Day-Lewis are great character actors, but we just see them for like them doing like those Oscar bait films.
Yeah, well,
You know,
Milton,
like they're not.
I kid you not. Like by the time Revenge of the Sith came out, you know, I was like 12 or so, somewhere in there, 12, 13. So the crazy part about that is you talk about being taken out of movies now as like, you know, adults in our 20s and 30s. I kid you not. I remember telling one of my friends back then that Mace Windu's the guy from Jurassic Park. Like that's what I told one of my friends because you know I connected him to Jurassic Park. So like, you know, you can get taken out. It just matters how they play the role, really. Like if he was playing the same guy from Jurassic Park, you know, in a lab or something, like, you know, that would have been like, okay, what's going on here? But
I mean,
you know,
honestly, I refer to Sam Jackson sometimes as Mace Windu, whatever character I've seen him as. Like I've referred to him as this character because one of my favorite movies he's done was A Time to Kill, which is a great film, and I love that character that he played. And I refer to him like, oh, that's so and so from the movie, you know, whatever. So I mean, look, if they get great actors to play the roles in Star Wars, I don't care unless it's Meryl Streep or Daniel Day-Lewis. That'd be a little different.
Now, getting into the last sequence of this series, before I lose this thought, I was going to bring this up earlier as we were first talking about this scooter gang, or whatever you want to call them. I believe the main character that Milton was referring to, there's a female that's played by Sophie Thatcher or something like that. I think the actress's name is, and I think the character's name is Drash. I don't know if that's mentioned in the actual show, or I've been seeing it around the internet. I haven't. Here's another little gripe. Here we go again. Another little gripe would be, and I have no problem with the actor at all. I think she does a great job. But what's the deal with Star Wars, you know, getting a lot of these brunettes that have English accents in Star Wars? Because I seen a post on Twitter like, oh, I thought that was Felicity Jones. It's like, yeah, of course you did. Because Disney keeps getting these different actors that are the same like archetype, I guess you could call it, without demeaning. I don't want to demean them, but it's just like, can we get a girl with blonde hair maybe or something, or another ethnicity at some point or something like that?
You're not wrong because even you think of
or give her an American
Kira.
accent. Yeah.
You think of Kira, she's English and with brunette. You got Rey, English brunette. You said Felicity Jones is what's her name? What's her character's name?
Jen Erso.
Jen Erso.
Gwendolyn
Who
Christie.
else?
Well, I mean, I guess
she's a blonde, but you don't see her in Star Wars.
Yeah, true.
I mean, Princess Leia. I mean, she's American and brunette. Who else,
Padme?
man? Oh,
Padme?
Padme Burnett and American.
Oh yeah, true.
Again, you're right. It's definitely like a type that they go for. I don't know any hottie blondes in Star Wars.
But the funny part is she's actually a blonde actress, though.
Is she a blonde
Oh, wow.
actress?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Didn't know it. The only person I can think that's different. No, even old girl Mon Mothma's a short-haired brunette in English. Yeah,
Wow.
like that's crazy.
Yeah.
How
So
how
that
about-
stuck out to
how
me
about
like a
Aunt
sore
Beru
thumb.
from episode 3?
I think she's a young brunette as well.
Holy.
I'm not kidding you. I don't know any blondies that are hot that are in Star Wars.
I'm trying to
So,
think.
or
I don't
even
know.
redheads. I don't know any redheads that are in Star Wars.
No. We need Mara
Yeah.
Jade in Star Wars. That's
There we
the
go.
redhead we need.
Yeah, that's facts. Big time.
But let's break it down. Let's break it down with this scene here. As far as these scooter gang or whatever we want to call them. Now, what'd you guys feel about it? The scene itself with the chase.
I thought the CGI was a little shaky, a little bit. It wasn't trash, just a little bit shaky. I like how they use their components. Like my brother and I were talking
Yeah.
about this the other night. About whenever the black dude that was chasing one guy, he was using his foot to like hit something. Because at first I was like, what's he doing? But then I remember he's got the cybernetics. So it was cool how they use their bodies to like beat people or like just to have an advantage. So it was cool seeing that. I like the chase scene. I think the mayor's aide is kind of annoying. I don't like him.
Mhm.
But I enjoyed the chase. I thought it was well done. The CG was a little bit shaky at times. But again, it's Star Wars. Most of their CG is on point. So I can't really trip about it heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was not a fan of that sequence really, because I don't know. It took me out of it. I think that also the colors of the scooters being so bright and like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it literally just gave me flashbacks to Power Rangers. It really did. Like I was just waiting on like Jason David Frank to like pop out like,
Dude, that'd be
like for
fire.
some action. Yeah, I mean, now that's an actor who's not super recognizable. He would be great.
Oh, he could be in Star Wars. Yes,
Oh, 100%.
He could have been a Knight
1000.
of the Ren, bro. That's
Yep.
how badass
Yep.
he is. But we'll get to that later.
But yeah, I was waiting on him to pop out. Like it just felt like a Power Rangers type sequence, and like I don't know, I was just waiting on him to form a Megazord or something because
Well, I'll say, do you think Ivan Ooze is gonna show up?
yeah, because it just felt so. I don't know. Rodriguez's directing just killed me on this episode. Like I just felt like it was just shot super weird. I was like, what are these scooter things? Like I don't know. They just were not. I'm not a fan of those vehicles whatsoever. I can easily say that, and I just didn't think the scene worked for me very well. Like it was done fine. Like it wasn't trash, but just like a lot of the episodes.
No, that makes sense because even looking at it, thinking about it now, I can see where you're coming from in the sense of how it was shot. And again, that's why I think the CGI for me was a little shaky because there were times where I'm just like, they don't look all that great. And maybe it's just editing mixing with the CGI, but the speeders, the colors are just weird. I get the whole Power Ranger aspect. The colors are over the top in my opinion. They could have been plain or just like black bikes.
So my problem with this whole sequence is the sense of speed. And we had Dominic Jones from the Star Wars Underworld on our podcast last week. Go check out their awesome podcast. And he had a great idea about the train. And the reason why the train sequence works so well is because they had a great sense of speed. When you had the people falling off, they were flying away. You could see like all the displacement of the dirt underneath the train at all times, just like the speed of the swoop bikes catching up. Like they did such a great job. And I feel like they totally dropped the ball with the sense of speed with these speeders because man, oh man, I feel like I could run faster than those speeders. It was like, what's the use of these things? Like they're speeders. I could run faster than these
I forgot
things.
about that point.
Like
Dominic
it
last
seemed
week. You're
like
not wrong.
they're hovering the camera on the back of them as they're flying, and it's just taking forever. Like it's just like these little things are just riding by.
Weren't they at one point? I feel like they were zooming in. Like whenever they would stop, they would zoom in on the guy, and that's that classic of like we want to show that he's braking or how the speed is.
Yeah.
And you're right. Even thinking about it now, the speed was kind of off, and maybe again, I think that's where it comes for me with the whole like editing component and the CGI too. it wasn't. I have to re-amend my scene or my point. It really wasn't a great chase. Now that I think about it, yeah. I mean, it's again. I wouldn't say it's completely trash, but it wasn't great.
Yeah,
So
like
I do agree with you guys on that. Now that I'm really thinking about it fully.
I like there's some cool stunts where the guy like flies up the side of that ramp off the building and flies off, as you mentioned, Milton, where they actually utilize the cybernetics. Like, thank goodness they did that, because like, why else are they cybernetically enhanced? What could they do that's cool? Oh, the guy has a flamethrower that comes out of his wrist, while the other guy like basically puts holes in the side of this thing with his mechanical foot.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
neat. But I'm gonna be opposite of what you say. I know it's gonna be you're like, huh? I actually didn't mind the colors. I didn't mind the gag. I actually thought it was pretty cool, because I think it's like George. They're trying to do a homage to George Lucas's American Graffiti in this scene.
Yeah.
That's basically
Yeah, well,
what's
he
happening.
does have a love for that era. That
So
makes sense.
you got the nice shiny, like the anti-culture kids of that era in Maz Espa. They're the young kids, they're the young guns, they're trying to go against the grain, they're the punks. They're gonna try to stand out as much as they can. They're thinking they'll look cool with the cybernetics. They got the cool brightly colored speeder bikes, which sets them apart, which is kind of like it subverts our expectations a little bit, because we think of Boba Fett like, hey, we're gonna get these like badass biker dudes with like swoop bikes that look like they're from 200 years ago, all banged up and stuff. No, we're gonna
Right.
shift the tables, and Boba Fett's gonna do something a little different. So I actually didn't mind
Well-
the design. I just had a problem with the chase scene.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing to throw out there. I think that was like my issue. Like, I think they look too new for me for being on Tatooine. But here's the flip side of it. If this scene was on Coruscant, I think it would feel perfectly fine. Like, it would feel in place. Like, I think it was just the set is what really threw it off for me.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that, because even thinking about the speeder chase or on episode 2,
Yep.
like that color scheme, the night shot looked good with that. The speed was amazingly done, and you can tell there was real danger doing that. So I get that. That makes sense to me.
Okay, so this is another thing, and we have a lot of awesome comments flying in. We have, Christopher Weber, why did they color them like that? I hate those speeders. We have Chris Forsyth
Yep,
saying they look like
That's
total
what
trash.
Chris was telling me like the other night. Yeah.
We have Chris Forsyth also comment, what's the better chase, this or the TLJ? I said The Last Jedi's better chase than this. But here's
wait. What chase is he talking about in the Last Jedi?
The slow space chase.
Oh, the freaking rip off of Battlestar Galactica's chase. Battlestar Galactica, dude, is way better chase scene than than The Last Jedi, without question.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows me, that movie's move on. Let's go.
Yep.
But
next.
But here's the thing, though. Chris is saying about the stealing water, but they had the nice speeder. So the water is like a valuable commodity on Tatooine. Like, that's their number one thing that the people are doing, is like moisture evaporation. So as we see earlier in the episode, the guy's like, I'm gonna charge them like 1,200 or 1,500 credits for a week's worth of water, and they're like, okay, that should be for a month worth for that price or whatever. So I think it's kind of hard to weigh that, because in our minds we're thinking, oh yeah, you can go to the store and buy a 40 pack of water for $5, but this is a completely different economy that's over there,
right,
and different things.
Which
So
that makes sense, Chris, why they're upcharging that water. I mean, because think about it too, though. It's kind of like now with our economy with gas. Like gas is with inflation in general. Everything's super expensive. The little stuff you would think that shouldn't be expensive is expensive. But obviously, with a planet of Tatooine where water is very scarce, that's the most valuable resource, no doubt.
Oh.
Like even when I was a teenager, I went to Haiti for a missions trip, and when I was down there, because that's a third world country, when I went down there, water and gas, they're valuable like it is up here, but down there, that's life. And they said that stealing is worse than murder down there, because everything is so possessive. Like, it's crazy. So even thinking about how Tatooine is perceived in this show with water, that makes sense. If you're stealing water, like, that's a death sentence. I could truly see that happening for sure. So it makes sense to me, and I'm glad that they're pulling from some real life scenarios.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, looking at like crazy price differences on things. I mean, we just experienced that with us going to Hawaii. everything in Hawaii has to be imported there. So, for example, like back here, gas is like $3 a gallon, a little over three, and there it's like 4.50. And then when we like around here, we go to McDonald's, for example, double cheeseburgers $1. And then over there, when we went there, we about fell over. We just went out for a quick lunch when we were on the road, and a double cheeseburger there is $4. And it's like, yeah,
what?
Yeah, no, we about fell over. Like when we went there, let's go through McDonald's and get a quick thing when we're on the road.
Dollar menu,
So I was like, I'll just have 2 double cheeseburgers and a fry, and my double cheeseburgers and a fry was $12, and it was like, okay. So, yeah, no, we went through McDonald's, me, my dad, sister, and her husband, and it was like $48. And so like imports, like like Tatooine, they have to import their resources and stuff, and like I think there's a potential also. We've talked about all these like wide scoping potential issues with Boba. There's a chance that actually he, maybe to gain the respect of like the Tatooine people, maybe one of the like side little things, he's going to somehow get them a water source or something at some point in the show.
Well, they've mentioned water multiple times. Like, first of all, I didn't know that. I don't know if you guys knew this, unless it's in Legends, that Tatooine was covered in water at one point.
Yeah, did you hear him say that?
They said at least 2 or 3 times in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got to give credit where credit is due to the chat room here. We have A. Draconius giving us some really cool lore here. He said the gang bikes have been compared to mod culture in Britain, specifically the modified Vespa scooters. They're saying, and I swear the engine cowling on the demo speeder resembled the NASA file on the refit Enterprise, and Reliant from the TOS or movie era. Didn't get a good look at them. I don't know what that reference is to. Is that Star Trek or something?
TOS.
I don't know. Who wrote that?
A. Draconius.
Okay, A. Draconius, to specify what that is, because I don't know. We probably do know it once you spell it out completely. But yeah, I'm not sure what he's referencing of that. But that sounds very interesting, though. But again, if they're pulling stuff, and that's what I like about Star Wars, if they're pulling stuff from real life, whether it's past technology or current technology, I love that.
Well, that's how we connect as viewers. I mean, look at us connecting to the original trilogy. There's the connections to like the World Wars and Vietnam and all that sort of like the governments, all that sort of things. Yeah. Like that's how we're connecting, and you're able to connect to movies or shows like this. Like that's like a real world issue. Like you said, Milton, you've seen those type of things like when you went to Haiti and other places. Like I'm sure if you go to like Afghanistan or places like that, I'm sure they have similar issues like water shortages or things like that. So, that's like a real world thing viewers can connect and relate to.
Well, even referencing our own American culture here, like you look at the gas shortage back in, I believe, the civil rights movement in Vietnam War era, like gas shortages were a problem in this country, and people were fighting at gas pumps trying to get gasoline. Well, it's again, I love how that is kind of referenced with the whole water issue at Tatooine. I love it.
Well, that's a just to like throw another example, another real world example. So with us being in Hawaii, one of the most like shocking or like sad things about there, everywhere you go, there's homeless like all over the streets of Hawaii. It is like so sad seeing all it, because it's like, man, all these people, like, sure, it's like an island paradise, but they're homeless. Like it's not a good situation. So that's why, like, even when we left, we had a bunch of snacks left over, and we went and just found some random homeless people, gave them away, and the guy was like freaking out because he was so happy to get some drinks and stuff. But cool. But yeah, it's crazy seeing like all over the country, whether it be Hawaii or U.S., wherever, like there's homeless people everywhere. Like, they're like, you can relate to those type of things, like shortages on water or food or whatever, like the Tatooine people are presumably dealing with in this time period.
Oh yeah, that's huge. That's huge. That's why Star Wars is so deep. You can connect it at a surface level, but then you can really dig in deep to its influences and figure out really cool connections there. We do have a clarification from A. Draconius on that whole thing with the Major Domo speeder, and he's saying yes, it's from Star Trek, and it's a reference to the warp engines on the ships in that franchise.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So do not go to us for your Star Wars or your Star Trek trivia.
Yeah, I ain't about that Star Trek life unless it's the newer stuff.
Same, yeah, with the three
Yep.
movies by J.J. Abrams, and
Yep.
that's it. That's
That's
it.
about it.
That's it.
So our last topic for the evening, as we've talked almost 3 times longer than the episode itself at this point, is
Which
the
is
big
sad.
is the big reveal of the Pikes are behind Major Domo and the mayor of Maz Espa. So yes, what do you think about the Pikes being involved in Star Wars once again?
When I'm not surprised, and I think that's a good thing because it ties into, I guess, the past story as well. Like the Pikes are an issue with that other gang that destroyed the Tusken Raiders. Because I think the Pikes kind of set them up. I'm just throwing it out there, but the Pikes are going to play a significant role, and I think what you guys are going to say, I think, probably ties into Crimson Dawn, maybe. Or even what's the other group that Maul ran? Red's Dead Son. What were they called again? The Pike Syndicate at one point. They were called
Shadow Collective?
what was Maul's group? What was his syndicate called?
I thought it was the Shadow Collective.
No, I thought it was like Black Sun or something.
No, Black Sun is part of the Shadow Collective. It was Black Sun, the Hutts, and it was the Pikes.
So I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But Crimson Dawn's going to be, I think, going to be an issue here, and obviously the Pikes gang is going to do something. So I feel like it's all going to tie into like some type of war.
Oh yeah, I agree with you there. Like I think, as we started the whole series out, I think we're going to continue to level these villains up more and more. Like this is the next step along the path of villains we're getting introduced, and I think the Pikes, it's just the next step, getting closer to Crimson Dawn. Like we have the Hutts, we have the Pikes, we have the Mayor, we have all these things, Black Chrysanthemum, we have all these different things that are leading up. Like they're all good enough villains in their own rights, but we still haven't had that pop, I don't think, like whoa, like there's a big villain. Like I think we're just waiting to get to that. And that's why kind of my sights are set on, I think the 6th episode with Dave Filoni writing it is going to be an interesting one. Like, why would Jon Favreau write all the other episodes and let Filoni write the 6th one? Like, what's up with that? So
yeah,
I think that's where we're potentially looking at a cameo coming in here in the next 3 weeks or so of a major character, and that could potentially be Akira or one of these other big criminal characters. Who knows? Maybe Cad Bane pops up potentially. Like I think we do have a cameo coming at some point, a big cameo like Kira or Cad. It's taking time, and we have to be patient because this is a slow burn show. That's for sure.
True.
Yeah.
Have we mentioned like another cameo of I don't know if he's even still alive. Your boy Hondo.
Oh, he's definitely alive because he's alive in the time of Galaxy's Edge, which is in the time of the sequel trilogy.
Maybe Hondo shows up and pulls something. Hondo is just he's a weasel, but we can get to that for another episode. But I love that character. But yeah.
So let's look at the history of the Pikes just a little bit. So in the most recent thing in our well, not most recent, but solo Star Wars story, we know that we have Dryden Ball, so he's sitting down with Solo and Beckett and Chewie and Kira, and he's all talking about. Didn't he say something about like we have an uneasy alliance with the Pikes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's why they couldn't do certain things because he didn't want to like interrupt that business arrangement with the Pikes or something like that. I have to go back and watch that.
You have to rewatch it because I know because they go to the planet to steal spice or something.
They go to Kessel. Yep.
Yeah, and I know that does something like the Pikes figure it all out, and they wind up chasing them through the Kessel Run and everything. Yeah, he mentioned something to that extent. And that's why he wanted to be like a cloak and dagger type mission.
And even in the more current time, in the Crimson Reign comic, is when we see Kira kind of branching out to all the families of the crime, and she goes to the Black Sun, sets up a meeting with them. That's where we learn about Prince Zizor being canon, and then we see one of her agents go to the Pikes, and this is in between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And the Crimson Dawn are the intermediary group that are kind of putting up a facade to these criminal groups, saying, "Oh, we don't want to be like a big group. We want to be that supply, that middleman that's going to kind of give you our resources, our assassins to you guys to help you out with certain missions. But we want to have an operation where we can deal with all the criminal groups and don't want to get flack from anybody, kind of thing." So that's where we see
Chris,
like her dealing with the Pikes. Like one of the people is dealing with the Pikes, and we haven't gotten a second issue of the comic yet, so we don't know what's happening with the Pikes. But there is an amicable relationship, at least a couple years prior. That could change.
well, I was gonna ask you, Chris, specifically, where in like the hierarchy of things. So at the furthest point, like right now in canon, when it comes to the Crimson Dawn, like where are they in like the hierarchy of like rankings of like all these crime syndicates? Like are they, you know, like where are they located in terms of ranking? Like if you throw them in like, you know, this crime syndicate's like the biggest one, you know, and Crimson Dawn is like here, or there.
Well, the Huts have been the biggest. You know, that's what
Okay.
the Empire's been dealing
Yeah.
with. But you know, you got the Black Sun that are out there. You got the Pikes that are out there. And it's kind of hard to say about the Crimson Dawn because the Crimson Dawn is infiltrated into every organization. That's what's happening in the current Star Wars comics is like Vader's hunting down agents of the Empire that work for the Empire that are secretly Crimson Dawn agents. And there's people like that in the Rebellion. There's people like that even in enemy crime syndicates, right? So, you know, whatever. So they are known, and that's what the point of War of the Bounty Hunters is it's Crimson Dawn's coming out party saying, "Hey, we've been gone for 10 years or something, but here we are, and we are making a show of force to be respected. We can get Han Solo and Carbonite, and we can auction him off. Like, we have the power that everybody wants right now."
So
And that's what
pretty
the point is.
much, you're telling me that Crimson Dawn is Hydra of Star Wars.
They actually are, yeah. Yeah, they basically
Okay.
are Hydra of Star Wars.
Just making sure, like,
Interesting.
because you know how I thought that was a really great way how they did it in the Marvel movies. So even thinking about what you're saying now, like how they're in everything,
They even
you know,
they,
that's
they even have Dengar that's working for the Crimson Dawn.
Okay,
That
so
just got
that
revealed
means
in Bounty Hunters.
okay,
number
so
20.
that means we're for sure going to be getting Crimson Dawn at some point.
have to.
And the thing with Crimson Dawn, they even have that catchphrase instead of "Hail Hydra," it's "Await the dawn." Like that's like their passcode. Like you'll have like the agents next to each other, and like that's what Dengar said. He's like, "Ah, crap! Await the dawn." Like he said it like so nonchalantly, like he didn't want to have to say it, but he's like, "Ah, I guess I got to say this. Await the dawn," like kind of mentality.
I like that.
Great.
So that's what's gonna make a big splash in this, right? You're gonna get that moment where somebody's gonna reveal themselves as Crimson Dawn. It's gonna be like, "Oh, it's like Hydra, like they've been sleeping as sleeper cells for the last whatever years, and they're out and they're here," you know.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I like that. I like that. I like the concept of that.
yeah, that's why I asked that. I just was you know, just to give kind of our viewers and us just a idea of where they basically are in the galaxy. So, you know, like with that being said, with these comics being kind of their coming out party, they have to be coming into this universe. Like I think it's inevitable, really. I mean, you know, months ago we have Amelia Clark talking about, you know, how it would be fun to be back in Star Wars or whatever at some point. Like, you know, just different little things like that. I just think it's pointing to them showing up.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool seeing that we're getting that information trickled out right now. Like that's one of the bigger storylines. Like that first episode, okay, you got assassins. Like, okay. Second episode, the mayor himself was like, "Who? I don't know who they are. They shouldn't be operating outside of Hut space. I don't know who these people are, these assassins." And this third episode is like, "Oh, the Pikes. The Pikes are in charge here." It's like, yeah, I don't believe that. There's somebody above the Pikes, somebody that's even more coordinated than the Pikes that's setting out these assassins and all that. And to kind of end the discussion for this week, now we see how they arrive, right? It's pretty cool. I love those ship designs, by the way. I think they're brand new in Star Wars. They got to be Corellian. I could tell they're Corellian ships because the way their ramps come down look like a Millennium Falcon landing ramp. Like the little boarding ramp looks like it has those columns like the Millennium Falcon. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, the ship looked amazing. I
Yeah.
thought that CGI looked great for the ship.
Yeah.
Again, it was very cinematic.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, what's so important about these guys? Because they don't even have like they're acting so clandestine to not even arrive on their own freaking ships. Like they're sneaking aboard like a ship that like Anakin and Padme were on, going to Naboo and Attack of the Clones. Like they're just like among the rank and file people of the galaxy, just like on this ship, and they're just like, oh, there's like maybe the guy was like, and I like how that guy again, another cybernetic guy using his like advantage, having his eyes like a hollow cam or whatever. He's like, this is maybe just a dozen people. I was like, that's just the first wave, and he's like, we're going to war. So I mean, that's the last thing I want to talk about is like, all right, like if you're going to war, you're gonna need a lot more people than a couple Gamorrean guards and some teenager cybernetic dudes. Like you're gonna have to get some allies here, and who do you think that who are you gonna call, so to speak, for Boba Fett here?
That's a tough one, honestly. Like, because at this point, I mean, a lot of people probably thought he was dead, and then he, like Milton mentioned earlier, he's been a loner for so long. So, what allies does Boba really have, if you think about it? So, it just harkens back to me thinking about like, okay, what bounty hunters was he connected with, like say from the Clone Wars, the different bounty hunters. I think one of the lead people he calls, honestly, is Bosk. I think this is where we get Bosk coming in to join the crew. I think, as we talked about earlier, I think Black Chrysanthemum's going to come back. The big dog that would be really cool for him to call would be Cad Bane. That would be fire. But yeah, I think he's going to call those type of people. But I do think we're going to get like a quick. We're going to skip a lot of the recruiting. I think going into episode 4, I think there's a chance we skip ahead, and he's going to have some groups just some general people recruited for the calls, versus going around basically on these recruiting visits trying to find people. I think we're going to skip ahead and potentially have people in with them, and then we'll sprinkle in some of like maybe some bigger characters like Bosk or Black Chrysanthemum back, and those type of characters and so on. And also, it begs to, also it's worth to mention, there was an interview with Tamara Morrison who basically said like people really need to keep an eye on episodes 5 through 7. So that means, this fourth one we're going to be building up more, and we're going to be basically probably laying out what this quote unquote war actually is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another kind of setup episode for the most part of like, all right, we got to get some men. We got to get some backup here. Who are we going to call for backup? Like you said, it's going to be tough because it's like, all right, who has respect for Boba Fett at this point,
That's a good point. I mean, it's a good point. I think this episode now needs to be this, I guess, officially the second act of the series.
That would make sense, right? Like, and take it out of Star Wars real quick. Like Peacemaker over on DC just released like their first 3 episodes on the premiere. So I kind of look at like, yeah, maybe this would be a good cutoff. Like we get that little zinger at the end, like the Pike coming through. This is where war begins. So I could see like the first 3 episodes, like, yeah, that was basically Act 1. Now Act 2, what are we gonna do to mobilize? What are we gonna do to have this main threat here?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
There you go. So let's get into our final thoughts and score out of 10. I'll start it off. I'll say that the Book of Boba Fett Season 1, Episode 3, The Streets of Maz Espa, had some bright spots, had some negatives, right? I really like the highlights of Black Chrysanthemum living up to his infamy in the comics of being such a badass character, and the fact that he's left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. We might actually see him come back and actually aid Boba Fett, which is going to be sick. Also loved Rancor. Seeing the Rancor as something that Boba Fett could even possibly ride in the future is going to be awesome. I like that Danny Trejo is a badass character that is going to basically come in and teach this Rancor, and I think he's going to have some pretty cool action sequences later on. Things I didn't like is, again, like no action from Boba Fett in this episode. Like there was literally like the only action we see is him getting beat up. I want to see him, fighting a little bit more. The chase scene was a little bit off for me. I didn't mind the actual people that are part of the gang, but the chase scene was a little off for me. So with that being said, I got to give this one. I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. It's my least favorite episode. It could definitely be better, but it wasn't horrible. I'll throw this over to Milton.
Yeah, so like I mentioned early on, I thought this episode reminded me a lot of the premiere. It had a lot of good things in it, some negatives. I had issues with it clearly. I think they need to get away from shortening these episodes and give us a lot more. I mean, I think more is better when it comes to a limited series. I think they need to continue to get out of their own way when it comes to the present story and just continue to progress that. The past story with the Tusken Raiders is the best part. And we know where that's going to lead up eventually. We know he's going to eventually connect with Mando and that crew. Obviously, we want to see how he gets there. But with the future storyline, that's the weakest part. Again, the CGI is normally on point. I love the music. I love the visuals, the aesthetics. I get that. I just have some issues with where this story's going in the main present line. I believe I gave the premiere episode a 7 point, or maybe a 7 out of 10. Because I'm just getting that flashback of how the first one went, I got to knock this down to at least a 6.75 out of 10.
All right, 6.75 out of 10. Fair points. Ben, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I can echo pretty much almost all the points that you both said. I thought the episode was fine. It had some good highlight moments. Black Crescent was really cool. I love seeing the rank war. I love some of the little references, like the holiday special reference, Amy Sedaris, like those type of things. Those references were really cool. I thought the Tusken Raider scene where they all got taken out, I thought that was a really, I guess not heartfelt, because heartfelt's joyous. I guess like sad moment, like heartstring moment, like a moment that'll really hit you. I think that was one of the better moments of the series so far, because like they've humanized the Tuskens in a way where you actually care about them and you're like, oh man, they just got taken out. Like I thought that was done really well, the way they shot it. The music on this show is always on point. I love Boba's theme. I love it. I think it's so good. And then, the parts I really didn't like, I thought the speeder mopeds, it was just weird. They looked weird. Like I said, it felt kind of like something you'd see from the 90s Power Rangers. It just felt so off to me. And then just the overall directing style of Robert Rodriguez, I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. Like I think that's like the biggest distinction. Like this episode, that's why this episode and episode 1 feels so similar to me, because the directing style, it just cut really strange. Like some of the shots, you even mentioned, Milton, like when they were on the speeders, like zooming in on them, like those type of shots, like I don't know, it just felt strange. So I'm not a huge fan of Rodriguez's directing style. And then just the overall, my concern level, say out of 10 right now for Boba, is like it's gone up from like maybe a 3 out of 10 to more of like I'm at like a 5.5, a little bit on the like worried on his, like, come on, he's got to pick up his pace. Like he's got to be more action involved. Like this is, I'm getting a little nervous about it, because it's like, man, we want to see Boba in action. Like, sure, he is the Don or whatever, but this is Star Wars and he has a suit of Mandalorian armor. It's like, come on, you got to use it, man. So like, that's a concern of mine. But I think the show is going to be heading in a good direction, because like we mentioned in our final points here about transitioning into war. So like maybe this next episode, we're going to have people mobilizing. We're going to find out what exactly more of the war is about. Like we'll see maybe more of the wide scoping potential reaches of it, and maybe more of the potential connections to the Crimson Dawn or other potential characters maybe allying themselves with Boba, like Bosk or, people like that down the road. So with all that being said, I would say this episode is probably my least favorite one, because last week, in my opinion, that episode was top 4 in all of Star Wars shows. Like that was a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 for me, and it was easily top 4 in any of this Disney Star Wars content, I think.
Right.
Like it felt like Star Wars to me. And I go from that to this, and it's like, whoa, like that felt like it felt like hitting a brick wall, honestly, because it was like, whoa, we go from this amazing directing style to this.
Well, it's starting to remind me of, Ben, sorry to interrupt, but it's kind of like, you're a big football fan. You're driving, you're doing a 98-yard drive. You get to about the 30 of the opponent, and all of a sudden you stop running the football when you know that's running for you. You want to start pass heavy. Now you're at 4th and 10. Like you just stalled your drive to score.
Yep.
So
that's a great comparison. I mean, I've seen it happen many times with the Browns this year.
Yes, sir.
Run the ball, run the ball. Nick Chubb average 7 yards a carry, and then start throwing it and turn the ball over. Like that's what this felt like. It felt like a turnover on downs. And to me, with that being said, I think last week, like I said, it was a 9 or 9.5 out of 10. The first episode I said was about a 7.5. This one I have to give it a 6.5. Like it just didn't. It felt off to me, and basically the only thing holding this episode together was basically the Rancor, the Tuscan flashback, Black Chrysanthemum, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna throw it to the audience out there live. We got some reviews. I'm gonna point them out. Chris Forsyth gives it a 4 out of 10, saying he's still banging his head on a wall. I had seen his video he put out. He has a YouTube channel, video series called Spotchka and Death Sticks, where he basically goes over the episode with a pretty in-depth look, so you can check out his content. But yeah,
check it out.
It's pretty funny. And then we had Aaron Daly giving it, matching at my score of a 7 out of 10. So we got a 6.5 out of 10. We got Milton. You gave it what, a 6.75?
Yeah, 6.75.
And I gave it a 7. So we're all around the same consensus. I think we could all agree that this episode could have used a little bit more meat on the bones, I guess, as far as like depth and detail.
I think if we get another 20 minutes, I think we have a lot of our questions answered, or at least somewhat getting fleshed out. Again, they can't be 35-minute episodes. This show will not work that way. You notice how the episode we all liked was 15 minutes ish, like because they told a really good story in an hour. So like again, the common denominator is stop doing these 35-minute episodes. They don't tell enough story.
Yeah, well, we shall see. The good thing is we have 4 more episodes. We'll be at the halfway mark next week, so then we could really start okay, what's going on here? I think once we get to that halfway point and we're still a little bit on the aimless side for certain aspects, then we have worry for concern. But wrapping it up. So I'm going to shout out everybody that was in the chat tonight. We had Aaron Daly. This is a rebellion, isn't it? Hey, thanks for that sentiment, Rebellion. Appreciate it. We had Chris Forsyth. We had A. Draconius. We had Chris Weber. We had my buddy Chad, Star Wars Infinite. So a very lively chat. And as always, if you guys are watching this or listening after the fact, we would love to have you in our chat room, chatting away, discussing it. We love the lively conversation, especially when you guys talk to one another. It's great because I monitor the chat as we go along. It's a lot of fun, and we'll read out your scores on the chat, and we'll just give you shout outs as long as we don't have 1 million people in the chat room. I try to keep that on par and keep you guys and give you guys a little something in the spotlight. So
I will say, Chris, as the show progresses, I mean, we're hoping for more and more people to jump into the chat, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing if we want more and more people to keep, chiming in. So I love how you monitor the chat, you incorporate the chat members into the show. Like I think that's a really great thing that you do. So I do appreciate that.
Oh yeah. That's one of the most fun parts about doing these type of shows in general. Is like I love, it's the community. It's like, hey, it's the Outer Rim transmission community. Like it's all of us like talking Star Wars, having a good time, whether it be good times or critical times. Like it's all in good fun. Right. It's all about something we love. So I love talking with people about Star Wars.
Yeah, and once again, bringing this one true and giving it to everybody as far as what's going on here. I don't know why I'm wording it this way. I'm losing my mind. It's getting late. Anyway, we almost talked for 2 hours about a 30-minute episode, and we had absolutely no news tonight. We had no news today. We filled up this entire episode to our normal length. So I don't know how the heck that happened, being that we gave this episode like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10.
It's craziness. Man, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but you know how I feel about this. It is what it is, I guess. It is what it is.
Well, like we said, it's fine. It's fine.
So there you have it. We are also on podcast streaming services around the globe. You can find us on Spotify. As we mentioned off the top, do give us a rating. I believe it's out of 5 stars. Please give us 5 stars because it will help our algorithm and help you guys learn, have your friends share this. Of course, sharing is a big deal. If you have any Star Wars fans in your life, go ahead and send us out, share us out there. So that is going to do it for Ben and for Milton. What do you guys have on the back burner for this week? I know NFL is seeing up to the playoffs, so I'm sure we'll see a
NFL
lot of that.
playoffs this weekend. My Eagles are playing at Tampa on Sunday, 1 o'clock. Your boys hype. Listen, Tampa Bay, they're not winning. I'm calling it right now. We're gonna upset Tom Brady. Let's go. Your boy's got his Eagles gear ready to go. I'm super hyped. But nah, seriously though, enjoy you guys this weekend. Thanks everyone who watched and listened to us tonight. We really do appreciate it. And another thing, I do know the podcast is also on Amazon Music. I actually listened to one of our episodes a couple weeks ago to just remind myself of some things. So we're on Amazon Music as well. But again, share it with your friends. The more the merrier, man. We appreciate it, guys. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's one of the best things. You can find our podcast everywhere. Along with Amazon Music, if you have an Alexa powered device, you can tell it to play our podcast and it'll do that. Like I've done that before when it's really cool. But yeah, it's a lot of fun really talking with all of you guys, and it's just a blast being back, and it's going to be interesting to see. We got 4 episodes left of Book of Boba, and next week is our midway point, and that'll be the point where if we're going to be hitting the panic button yet. So we'll see. We'll see here in just a few days. But yeah, you can find me at Real Ben Maynard, just talking fitness, getting back into shape for the summer and stuff, going on a diet. Like that's what I've been up to lately, and yeah, getting back into the swing of things.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, I almost forgot real quick. I almost forgot this. We got some stuff that came out this week, so I'm not going to go into it. I have all the reviews on the channel right now, but we have Star Wars issue number 20. We have Bounty Hunters issue number 20. We have the High Republic Adventures number 12 and the Eye of the Storm issue number 1. So I caught myself right at the end there. Check out all that content. I have it on the channel. Yeah, it was a big week for comics. Freaking 4 comics. It's like we have 1 week where they give us 1 comic, and then the next week it's like 4. It's like, can't you guys just like split up evenly, like 2 1 week, 2 another week, maybe 2 another? Like I don't know. But and real quick, updates on the channel. We do have a lot of content that I've been putting out around the Book of Boba Fett that people seem to enjoy. So make sure you go check it out. I have a video about the Sarlacc pit and how that connects with the Aftermath trilogy. I have a video about Black Chrysanthemum and like his entire history at a glance. And I just put up a video this week about the Rancor and about like the history of Rancor riders and stuff like that. So they're fun videos I've been making. Like the morning of the episodes, I put them out. So
I will tell you what, those 3 particular videos, I really been enjoying those. I like that you've been tying them into the show. They've been getting a lot of good traffic I've been seeing the last couple weeks too. So that's what's up, man. We're proud of you for that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, you gotta figure out the algorithm somehow, and apparently I figured it out somehow. But that is gonna do it for us here at Outer Rim Transmission. For Ben, for Milton, for Star Wars. Thanks everybody for watching. This was Outer Rim Transmission number 41. Everybody take care of yourselves and transmission.